And welcome to this session of our EpiDoc training program, for which you can see a link at the bottom of the screen. And in this session, Polina Jordanova of the University of Helsinki is going to show how to record the responsibility and revisions in EpiDoc. So please, Polly, go ahead.
Thank you, Irene. Hello. So since preparing a digital edition is a collaborative endeavor, it's useful and oftentimes necessary to be able to record who is responsible for the various aspects of its preparation and to be able to reference those in the different places in the document. And as Gabi showed you in the video dedicated to the edition metadata, we can use the editor element in the title statement, which is a part of the TI header section of the XML file, to record the editors of this particular document with or without their specific roles, and assign them a unique identifier in the XML ID attribute that will allow us to reference them where we need in this document or in other places. We can use these unique identifiers also in our div type bibliography in order to describe our bibliography and give it again a unique identifier that we can point to when we want to attribute something in the document to something in this bibliographical item. It is also possible to denote the authorship of a translation that we have provided in div type translation, but since div doesn't take the XML ID here, and this is an item that we want to attribute to a person that has the XML ID attribute, in order to be able to point to them from other places, we need to use the @resp attribute here, which works much like the XML ID. It points back to it. And this is the pointer that we use for that. In the apparatus, we might want to attribute a previous reading to a published source rather than to an editor's name, like we have here. The distinction being that we use the @resp when we are referencing a person, and the @source attribute when we are referencing a published source, a publication. For divergent interpretations in dating, for example, we use the same principle @resp when we have a person and @source when we have a publication. And we could also keep a log of the activities that have been performed and the work that has been done on the XML file, which is kept in the revision desk in the module TI header, where every change is recorded within a change element that has a when attribute recording the date when this change was performed, and a who, which again is a pointer to the unique identifier, the XML ID that we've given to the person who performed that change. And to summarize, when we have a person or an authority that we would like to reference in order to attribute responsibility to them, that might be an editor or a bibliographical item, they take the unique identifier recorded with an XML ID attribute. And if we have an item or a construct that needs to be attributed to them, if we're pointing to a person, we are using the @resp attribute. And if we're pointing to a published source, we use the @source. And whenever we are pointing to these identifiers, here is a little clue for us. If we only have the hash sign here as the pointer, that means that we're pointing to an element that is contained within this file that has the XML ID attribute. And if we have something before the pointer, that means that we are referencing an element in that file, in this case, a file called doc, that has this XML ID attribute. And that is how we reference and attribute responsibility. Anything that you guys would like to add to that?
No, thank you very much, Polly.